welcome to the exciting world of squash and the physics therein. In the exciting world of squash and the physics therein, we'll cover momentum and collisions, friction, graphic motion, and Newton's first, second, and third laws. Get ready for it. The exciting world of squash and the physics therein is brought to you by our sponsor, Colgate Toothpaste. Buy it or we'll kill you in your sleep. Anyway, the first topic we'll be covering on the exciting world of squash and the physics therein is friction. Here we see two aggressive squash players in their natural habitat, the squash court. While witnessing such an epic battle of wits and physical prowess, you might ask yourself, what is the coefficient of friction between the floor and the player's shoes? These players are trained professionals and are thus wearing shoes that would have a very high coefficient of friction between them and the floor. In effect, the floor exerts a very large force of friction against the shoes, thus propelling the players more than they would have been propelled otherwise, had they worn normal shoes. With that said, the next topic we'll be covering on the exciting world of squash and the physics therein is collisions. When discussing collisions, it is important to note Newton's third law of motion. Newton's third law of motion states that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. This can be applied to many aspects of squash, such as when the racket hits the ball, or when the ball hits the wall. While the reaction may not appear equal to the action in either of those situations, it actually is. The reason the ball gets displaced, whereas neither the racket nor the wall do, is that the mass of the racket and the wall are both greater than the mass of the ball, thus displacing the ball, and not displacing the racket or the wall. Alright, let's move on to momentum. Utilizing momentum is an important part of squash. One must swing the racket with a certain amount of force in order to make the ball go a certain speed and distance, given the fact that the racket is very light. A usual racket weighs 110 to 200 grams. That's just 4 to 7 ounces. What happens usually in a squash match is that the rubber ball must be hit with a force of at least 1,100 pounds per inch. Therefore, momentum is very important. The acceleration the ball is experiencing can be measured in a graph, as seen here. You like that, don't you? Alright, if you thought that talking about Newton's third law seemed awkward without having covered Newton's first or second laws, you're in for a treat. We're gonna cover Newton's first law now! Yay! Newton's first law states that an object in motion will remain in motion unless acted on by another force. Some forces which can do this to a ball are the wall or air resistance. Due to the high speed and small size of the ball, air resistance is negligible. However, the wall is a very important factor in terms of the ball's velocity, both in terms of speed and direction. As seen here, when the ball hits the wall, it decelerates and changes direction. And if you thought that talking about Newton's first and third laws was awkward without having discussed the second, you're in for a treat. We're going to discuss the second law. But if you think discussing is disgusting, you're not in for a treat. Newton's second law states that F equals m times a, or that the net force of something equals its mass times its acceleration.